Deliverables and activities are critical for any project success, and this is where the defined scopes comes in. Your requirement needs to be identified, organized, and clearly understood by all the project stakeholders and by the project team members to make sure that they all understand what is the final product value that we are looking at when this project will be done. And this needs to be done as part of the collected requirements, and this will give you the vision of the final product line. So what we are looking at project context, descriptions, benefits, deliverables, scope, acceptance criteria, estimated project schedules, human resource requirement, budgeting. Defined scope is a very important process because with the end of this process, you would have what you are actually going to deliver. So the requirement documentation that we have done as a part of the RTM and other requirement documentation, which could be flip charts, which could be minutes of meetings, which could be emails, these will be developed into project scope statement. It defines deliverables with acceptance criteria more clearly than objectives stated in the initiation phase. This document defines scope. Project scope statement covers both project and product scope. Product is the functions that we are looking at. Project is a way to get to that scope or to the product. Since all the requirements identified in the collect requirement, so understand this thing. The relationship between the collect requirement and the defined scope is kind of a subset. Collect requirement is a superset and defined scope is a subset. You need to listen everything. You need to look for every requirement which are related to this scope, related to the business objective that has been given to you. But what is important is, because of time, cost, money, other capabilities, requirement, market conditions, time to market, all this, you all will not become part of the scope. So scope is a subset of a requirement. Yes, there might be that scope might trigger an additional requirement which will but then the scope that has the requirement that has been triggered by the project scope statement or by identifying the deliverables as an alternative analysis, this will be added as part of the requirement. So requirement is a superset and defined scope is a subset. So all the requirements will not become part of the scope. Therefore, the defined scope process selects the final project requirement from the requirement documentation developed during the collect requirement process, and it says it's a highly iterative process. You will keep on moving into this requirement, defined scope, requirements, defined scope documentation. This developed a detailed description of the project and product, service or result. It is the final detailed description, anything which will bridge any kind of a gap or any misunderstanding between the stakeholders and the project team. Iterative life cycle projects, a high level vision will be developed during this during this defined scope. A detailed scope is determined at one iteration at a time. So you have a vision, what is going to happen, you have the overall project, but then you will keep on identifying it detail into a tiny bit so that you can actually develop and deliver. So you need to know what is going to come in, which is called a progressive elaboration. So iterative cycle projects, high level vision will be developed for overall projects, but then detailed scope will be determined iteration at a time. So think of, let's try to map it with the agile. In agile, you have a product scope, you have user stories, and then you are actually identifying what will become the final scope at the time based on the feedback you receive, and whatever the user stories will become part of the backlog. You may have a product backlog and then you have a sprint backlog. This will give you the overall idea of what a scope is. Very important. It works, defines both project and product. Thank you. Next, we will look into the tools and technologies.